Tom Mulcair is with me now. He's CTV News political commentator and the former leader of the NDP. Hello there, Tom. Good morning.
Good to be with you, Marcia.
So Premier Legault in the Globe today laid it all out in his opinion piece. He said that Quebec needs to catch its breath. For people who don't know the situation well, why is the province of Quebec seeing such a disproportionate number of asylum seekers into that province? Let's start there.
Because it's become the entrance to the funnel. What happens, and people will be surprised to hear this because it became big news here, but I don't think it made it that much across Canada. New York City, the mayor's office actually confirmed, the mayor confirmed that they were paying bus tickets for people who were in New York City and sending them to Plattsburgh. Now, when we think of upstate New York, if you're in Toronto, you think about Buffalo just across the water. But New York State at the top is very large. And Plattsburgh is a good-sized town, just about a half an hour south of Montreal. Along that border, in that area, you've got border crossings that are irregular. The city of New York has been sending people up by bus, and believe it or not, customs agents from the U.S. side have been moonlighting, driving people from Plattsburgh to Roxham Road. There are cars with Roxham Road Express types of things written on them. So it's become an entry point, highly irregular. A lot of these people will be legitimate asylum seekers. Many of them are just economic migrants looking for a better life. And politically, it's become difficult for Trudeau because, of course, he put out a tweet when Donald Trump was still president saying, don't worry about your country that's shutting doors. Canada's wide open. And they took that quite literally. And the result is 40,000 people in Quebec who need healthcare, who need schooling, who need housing. And Quebec is in the middle of a housing crisis like other places in Canada. So Legault's got a couple of strikes against him when it comes to immigration. He's said things in the past that don't work very well. But at the same time, people have to listen to the fact that there is a saturation point. And the feds have started to move some of those people who arrive in Quebec to other provinces. And now we're seeing a reaction in other provinces because they're starting to see the same thing. Motels that were there for tourists are now being commandeered essentially by the federal government to put up these people who are seeking asylum. So it's a complex situation. The Minister of Immigration, who was just quoted there, bears a certain amount of responsibility because once they're here, they would love nothing more than to be able to work. There's a shortage of workers in Canada right now, labor shortage. But believe it or not, Marcia, they're being given appointments to get their permit to be able to work, and the appointments are for 2025. So the whole system is completely breaking down around immigration. And of course, that opens the door to political opportunism, as we saw Mr. Poilievre yesterday giving a 30-day warning to Justin Trudeau. 30 days, and then what happens? Well, there was no answer to that.
Yeah, and as Legault points out, Tom, Trudeau's good intentions have turned into a real problem for the province of Quebec. And you just outlined all the strains and the stress that it's putting on the system. The Premier is asking for two things. He wants the other provinces to carry some of the load, and also he's asking for changes to this safe third-party agreement.
Crucial,
what changes do you think can be made? What would help ease some of the pressure on Quebec, Tom?
It starts with a change to the safe third-party agreement. So that's an agreement between Canada and the United States where we basically look at each other and say, well, you follow international law and you follow international law. So if somebody's in the United States, they can't come and make an asylum claim in Canada because we assume that Americans are respecting the international norms that we would apply. So if you arrive at a regular border crossing where you would cross with your family in your car if you were going to the States, if you arrive at one of those, the Canadian border guards will say, no, you go make that claim in the United States. It's considered a safe third party. The problem is when you do that, you're inviting people to find irregular crossings. Roxham Road is just one of 100 roads that exist in Quebec and Ontario that cross the border. So you could wind up with a Roxham Road 5 kilometers down the road if you don't solve the problem of the safe third country agreement. That's where we are right now.
Do you expect that Trudeau will address this with U.S. President Biden next month when Biden's here?
I actually do, because you might recall a couple of months ago, Marco Mendicino, the public security minister, said publicly that he was about to have a deal with the Americans to review the safe third country agreement. Now, Trudeau upbraided Mendicino saying, don't say that, it's not true or it's not ready. Now, was it because Trudeau knew that Biden would be coming? Because these things are planned very long in advance, and he wants to be able to make that announcement when Biden's here. I'm actually crossing my fingers that that's the case, because what was a good and well-intentioned thing has turned into something very difficult to manage. To give you an idea of the scope, when the provincial premiers were together in the Maritimes earlier in the week talking about exchanges of doctors and recognition and credentialing and that sort of thing, one of them said, yeah, we'd be more than willing to take our fair share of like maybe 100, 125 people. In the case of Quebec, it's 40,000. And it's just such a difficult situation. Now, to be fair, the feds are paying for a lot of it. Quebec's, it says, well, they're on welfare, so this is what the welfare checks represent. And the feds have been good about that. That should be mentioned. But overall, it's a situation that's just untenable. There are certain cultural communities who learn about this. There's one, there was a very tiny group that came from Turkey 2 years ago. And then in the past few months, it's been 5,000 people from Turkey. Well, there are rough times around the world, including in Turkey, but I'm not sure that it's going to be immediately obvious that all of these people who are seeking refuge here meet all of the requirements.
Tom, thanks